Welcome back, America. I'm Hugh Hewitt. Pleased to welcome Noah Rothman. One of the people I have to apologize to because I left him out of my Fox News column today is the people you got to be listening to. So sorry, Noah. I was on deadline. But I would have put you in there if I'd thought about it longer. Noah, what do you know about Seattle?
Not a ton. I've never been, but I am familiar with it as a subject of politics because I've been writing about what Jacobin magazine called this year the year of municipal socialism, and they have abundant evidence to buttress that conclusion.
Boy, are they screwed. Let me give a quick rundown of the facts and then have your reaction. There are 800,000 people in the city of Seattle. King County is about 4 million. Median income in Seattle is 120,000. The cost of living is significantly higher there than the national average. It's a college town, 52,000 college students, 36,000 staff on the University of Washington. The Katie Wilson, the mayor-elect, website begins with homelessness, follows by affordable housing, Trump-proof the city, climate action, sanctuary city. She calls for a local capital gains tax. She wants to raise property taxes. She wants a local estate tax, the death tax. She wants a local wealth tax. She wants a digital advertising tax so that they can generate funds from the social media companies that monetize our attention all day, every day with detrimental health effects on mental health. And she is anti-Israel, accuses Israel of genocide, and has been endorsed by CARE. So am I right? They're screwed?
Yeah, that litany doesn't sound very good, and she's a defund the police type. In 2021, 2020, Seattle was at the epicenter of the great racial reckoning that we were all experiencing, and it had a lot of politicians who subscribed to the defund the police proposition. And in 2021, there was a backlash. Bruce Harrell, who is the outgoing mayor, ran explicitly against defund, and the city council, which had unanimously voted against it, one of the city council representatives was his opponent, swept him out. Also, Ann Davison was the city attorney, was elected city attorney, a Republican, explicitly saying, that the defund the police stuff had gone too far. Ann Davison lost her primary. Bruce Harrell lost his primary, subsequently lost his election. And it's indicative of, I think, a backlash to the backlash that has followed throughout America, especially at the deep blue municipal level. In Atlanta, they will have a socialist city council member for the first time in its history. Rashida Tlaib's former communications director in Detroit was elected to the city council, raising the number of socialists on that 9-member body to 2. Obviously, you have Mamdani's victory in New York City and Seattle. So we do have, in a contest between far-left Democrats and outright socialists, the socialists are winning.
So, Noah, is it good for the country and bad for New York and Seattle? Because we are running an experiment that has been run many times before, never successfully. No matter where you look, you'll never find a successful socialist country. I suppose you might say Northern Europe, but we pay for the defense. So it does not work. It ends up with empty shelves, decrepit apartments, no new building, people fleeing. Is it necessary for us to go through this?
I'm of two minds on that question. I do think Republicans will successfully use these socialist avatars as foils to animate their base voters and to create a portrait of municipal failure, policy failure, that they will campaign against. And it will be a successful campaign if they can establish a contrast with socialist governing styles. And that is not offering them 50-year mortgages and subsidizing demand and creating government stakes in private enterprises and lecturing companies that they need to support legislative initiatives on the Republican side. Socialism light is not going to defeat socialism. They have an opportunity there. But I do think that we don't have to consign America's greatest cities to ruin in order to realize that vision. The costs of this experiment, as you put it, are so high as to be prohibitive, in my view. I don't think they're worth it. And I do fear the risk of a backlash because there's no guarantee that your experiment will succeed. There is a temptation represented by socialist policy prescriptions, a rapacious, in my view, evil temptation, which is to believe that your failures, your personal failures, are attributable to the successes of someone else. And if we only knock them down a peg or two, we will realize the full flowering of the human condition. That's a very tempting notion. It has been with us throughout history. Socialism is only the latest expression of it. But it is not necessarily one that I welcome. I don't want to inculcate it. I don't want to incubate it. I don't want to give it space to flourish. So I'm on two minds of this one, and I have a lot of fear for this experiment.
Okay, so the big question, I'm not looking to blame anyone. We end up here by pathway evolution, small choices made over time. I've been doing this for 35 years. I've seen those small choices. What do we do to correct massive historical ignorance? And I do mean massive historical. Churchill was the bad guy in World War II, and socialism is something that has never been tried anywhere, so we got to try it here. Rent control is a good idea. Where do we begin to fix this?
I see a lot of this as just the virtues of being provocative. Quite a lot of this, in my view, especially the attraction that young people have to these messages, is that they're taboo, and the people who object to those taboos are the older generation who you want to offend and stun and shock. There's nothing new about that.
Okay, boomer. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah,
I hear it.
To an extent. To an extent. That doesn't mean you let sleeping dogs lie, or you just passively accept this. We do need to engage in a massive re-education campaign. We need to have some confidence in ourselves and our historical memory and our understanding of the righteousness and justness of individual economic liberty, individual personal liberty. Those things are not out of fashion. They lack for champions. They lack for people who are self-confident enough to say that you are closest to your circumstances, you understand them better than I do. I do not need to have a government impose on you the conditions that you are supposed to observe, so you're living your life not wrong, as I define it. That's the sort of thing that I think does have an intrinsic appeal, but it's staid, it's old, it's not provocative, it's not exciting. It's not the sort of thing that the younger generation will be attracted to. So individuals who have media careers, for example, that cater to young people's sentiments, particularly those that proliferate online, will adopt a provocative outlook, and they will reinforce the delusions in young people that maybe the historical narrative that you've been acquainted with is all wrong. It's just a right-wing version of Howard Zinn. But it's the sort of thing we know how to fight, because we did fight Howard Zinn pretty effectively. It's just coming from our side now, and that's discomfiting. But it's the same fight.
So if I were to say to you, I would look at State Board of Education requirements for junior high and high school and make them go back to chronology, dates and battles, world leaders, the basic stuff that you've got to know. Would that sound boomerish? Is that out of touch? Because we can't have collages from seventh graders anymore.
Yeah, well, one of the things in my first book, I advocated for the restoration of civic education. It just fell out of favor for some reason. We teach government structure of other countries better than we teach our own government structure, especially at the elementary level. And that is a profound abdication of the responsibility of educators, to just instill in the younger generation a knowledge, not a reverence for, although that should be part of it, but a knowledge of how our system came to be, how it functions, what the historical antecedents were for it. That's the sort of thing, the ignorance of it is just profound. And yes, it begins at the elementary level, and it should be required. But that's not all that's required of us. The rest of us have to champion with self-confidence and perseverance the goodness, the justness, the righteousness of the American Civic Compact.
I agree, and I want you to go back right now and work on that book, Noah C. Rothman. Follow him on X. Listen to him on the editors. Noah C. Rothman, thank you. I'll be right back, America. Stay tuned.
Portions of the Hugh Show is sponsored in part by the American Legislative Exchange Council.